The story begins with a boy preparing to leave for school. He turns around to greet his mom, but strangely, she has a knife in her hand. Inquiring who he is, she screams, "Where is he? Give him back!" as she lunges at him with the knife. Quickly, he closes the door behind him. Afterwards, she drops the knife and walks away into the dark. Surprisingly, he has a very calm expression as he notices the clear sky. Despite his optimistic personality, it's obvious that he's in danger, as shown by the marks on his door. At the bus stop, he yawns, seemingly tired. A girl approaches him with a smile on her face. Her name is Hoshino. He tells her that she's late, and she informs him that she had an emergency that morning. He remarks that he's been playing games until morning. She looks at him with a concerned expression, wondering if he really stayed up all night playing games. Surprisingly, he doesn't seem stressed at all. He announces that he's always having fun and inquires if she's stressed about anything. "Then I'm screwed," she declares, looking down. "It's like I'm living in hell." After a pause, she laughs and declares that she's just joking. In the next scene, at the top of a roof, a boy confronts someone, declaring that today is the day he will meet his end. The intimidating guy questions if he's looking down at him, threatening him with a game. He launches a punch at him, calling him a midget and declaring that he will be beaten. Suddenly, energy appears from the boy's hand, which causes the bully to be pushed off the rooftop. Upon seeing this, the boy smiles as his bully falls to his death. Hoshino looks from behind a door with a smile on her face. She notices that a penalty has been imposed. Later, police officers arrive on the scene, and students are blocked off. The students are all surprised as they hear that the delinquent leader ended his time on Earth by accidentally setting himself on fire and jumping from the roof. From below, the protagonist notices Hoshino with a fearful expression on her face. A beautiful blonde girl steps forward, declaring that she wants to answer something. Someone had seen her coming down from the rooftop not long after Hinamata fell. However, she adamantly insists that she knows nothing. The blonde girl declares that she's lying, pointing out that someone like her, who is always ranked highly in school and is late for no reason, must have something to hide. With teary eyes, Hoshino declares that she was feeling unwell. The girl shouts, "Someone just died, and you're acting like this." Suddenly, someone grabs her hand, which takes her by surprise. The protagonist inquires if something is wrong. The girl nervously questions who he is. Ignoring this, the protagonist tells her that violence won't help anything. Hurt by his gaze, she declares that he's right and that she almost got a penalty. She comments that if he's a good person, she doesn't recommend him getting close to people like them. Hoshino thanks him for his help, her bright smile returning to her face. However, there's something strange about her eyes. She comments that this morning, he said he had nothing to stress about, so in a cruel twist when she comes, she is sure that he must be the weakest, and it's quite a shame. She smiles sweetly and thanks him for helping her out, promising to return the favor. Later in the night, he walks alone with groceries in his hand. He gets a message from Hoshino, but he had never added her to his contacts. Luckily, he received a very nice reward for the favor he sent earlier, a very seductive picture of her. He blushes, pretending that he doesn't understand what to do with this, as if he's not going to beat his meat. He tells her that if she has anything difficult, she can ask him for help. She declares that he's kind and that he can help her out by playing a game with her. She sends him the link. The game is called Stress Game. Unfortunately, he doesn't have any time for that. However, since she sent it after he offered to help, he can't refuse. He clicks the button, and suddenly he is surrounded by a bright light. He ponders if this is an RPG game. He tries to press on the phone, but nothing is happening. The phone announces Mission Start. He must eliminate 30 strains. If he defeats a large strain, he'll get a bonus. He doesn't understand and thinks it's a bug. Suddenly, a strange creature appears with sharp claws, walking towards him. He thinks it's a dog. What could it possibly be? Far more terrifying, it pounces onto him, and he tries to guard but luckily is fast enough to dodge. It bites the stop sign instead. He thought it was a prank. Should he run? What should he do? He glances at his phone and sees a hint. He should try using the harassment punch. He contemplates whether it's worth it, but he knows that fighting these wolf-like monsters is impossible. Suddenly, one of them pounces on him. In an instant, he jumps out of the way, barely escaping the attack. He turns around and notices that the creatures are gone. It's just like a game, wherever the pain proves that this is not an illusion or a dream. Only one creature remains. If this is one and only one, is there a chance of him winning? Unfortunately, the other two are also behind him, so he's actually surrounded. The monsters jump on him again, and at that moment, strange water appears in front of the monsters, turning them to ice. From inside an alleyway, someone approaches. It's a beautiful blonde-haired girl. She comments that he's the meddlesome boy from earlier and introduces herself as Asahina Kana. Suddenly, she lunges at him, her face curling into a serious expression. He tells her to wait, barely dodging her strike as she punches the monster trying to attack him from behind. Just like the other monsters, it turns to ice. He questions what she did. She declares that she froze it using her harassment. She orders him not to just stand there and stay still. He must show some punches. But he declares that he doesn't have the power to fight against those monsters. One of the monsters stares at them with a pitiful expression. Seeing that he cannot win, he quickly runs off. She glances at the time limit on comments. It's too short. She comments that she doesn't usually help people who aren't her buddies, but she needs to return the favor. If he hadn't stopped her earlier today, she would have been penalized. He inquires what this penalty she's talking about is. She shows him her phone and asks if he hasn't read the rules. He seems confused and questions if the monsters are related to the game. She is surprised. How is he in this game if he doesn't know anything about it? He explains that he got a message from Hoshino earlier. Asahina declares that he was tricked by her just because she's a little cute. He explains that he was just worried and tried to help. Asahina explains that usually the person who introduces the game to someone else protects them during the introductory period, or they end up with a game over. After a game over, the player dies. He might die as a result of an accident or the sudden onset of a disease. The game always comes up with an appropriate reason. He declares that's impossible, but she reminds him that he has never seen someone use ice powers to fight monsters before. This is all due to the stress game. If he manages to complete the missions, he is rewarded, but if he fails, he will die. He questions who the creator of this game is, and if she has ever tried to search it up. She remarks that who in their right mind would revolt against reality itself? It's a complicated game that depends entirely on luck. So who created this game called reality? Who manages it? Has anyone looked into it? Who knows? She decides that they should add each other as friends, because even if she defeats those monsters, his score won't go up. If they decide to take down 30 enemies quickly and clear this before they run into other players, he questions if she will defeat the monsters, so he doesn't have to. She remarks that he has to do what he can with his mission screen, as he can't just rely on others to do everything for him. He nervously declares that he doesn't have the power to freeze or anything like that. However, the fact that he's joining the game means he's probably developed some kind of power. That's when he remembers the harassment punch. She remarks the game grants your power based on your stress level. Those supernatural skills that seem like magic are called harassments. Her harassment is ice. She can freeze her opponent when she hits them. For this game, there are only two options: finish it or game over. He has a lot of questions, but unfortunately, they cannot be answered just yet. She tells him to run. They only have 50 minutes remaining. The question remains, if the time runs out and they haven't finished the mission, what happens? She declares that he will be penalized. A few moments later, she smirks as dozens of monsters gather here, ready to be destroyed. She rushes toward the monsters, laughing hysterically as she freezes them all one by one. 29 remain, and only one is left. As she throws a punch, TNT appears in front of her, sending her gliding through the air from the impact. Someone in a cool tone comments that she was wondering who it was, but it's just Asahina. She glares at her phone with an unreadable expression. When she sees the protagonist, she smirks and questions Asahina. How come you're still alive? Our protagonist declared that Connor helped him. Hinagami remarks that the protagonist isn't even in the same league as her, yet she still helps him. she's really kind. Kana inquires why she brought the protagonist into the game. Hanagami responds that she finished an important mission and received an invite as a reward. However, as she knows, it pops up on the screen until you use it, and that was getting on her nerves. Kana questions if she forgot that someone died, yet she did this. Hanagami smirks, declaring that all she thought about was how weak she was. True Marks said it's a shame that the protagonist doesn't suffer from stress. In this game, according to the type and intensity of your stress, the sort of harassment you get changes. Her stress is known as a party cracker. Kana informs them that they don't need to fight against each other in this mission. However, Hanagami is aware that in missions like this, there's a penalty if a person damages another player. If a person ends up taking someone's life during it, the penalty is even harsher. But although the penalty is problematic, she knows very well that these guys are going to hold it against her. If she doesn't stop them now, it's going to lead to unnecessary consequences. Kana comments that her reasons for taking action are insane. Pretending to be innocent, Hanagami remarks that she doesn't feel happy about this either. She's just more concerned about her own safety than the safety of others. Unfortunately, her power doesn't match up to Kana's power. However, that's why she thought to find a way to counter it if necessary. Kana exclaims, "If you realize that you're at a disadvantage against me, then why?" Kana groans but falls into a trap, then is blown away by the explosion. Hanagami laughs, thinking it's true that she's at a disadvantage against her when it comes to their skills, but she was lucky that she is kind of dumb. Cinders of flames float around Kana, who is bruised. That's when she notices a dark aura accumulating behind her. Hanagami looks up upon noticing water falling, but to her shock, she notices a giant monster known as a large strain. It's shocking that it spawns so close. She attempts to activate her abilities, but before she can, the monster grabs her with plenty of force, causing her to spew blood. The monster declares her innocence as her former friend looks up at her, saying, "I don't want to play." However, Kana's attacks aren't as effective on this creature. The monster notices her punches, but luckily, she dodges. If there was water in the area, she could defeat it, as her ice has relatively low hit points, so it doesn't play as much of a role against large monsters. Since she has to be in contact with the opponent, her powers aren't very useful against long-distance enemies or those who control the environment or make emotional attacks. Kana explains that she talks too much. Suddenly, the monster tightens its grip, causing her to scream in pain. The protagonist questions if they can do anything about this. However, even if they take the firecrackers she had shown earlier, they wouldn't be able to put them to use. The creature opens its mouth, preparing to swallow her whole. Meanwhile, Kana tells the protagonist that they have no choice but to run. However, if they run, Hoshino will undergo a game over. Kana doesn't want to run away. She wants to do something. But right now, they can't win against that thing. Once more, Hoshino tried to end their lives. She even made him join this game. Maybe because the invite notification was annoying. Does he really have any reason to put his life on the line to try to save her? He declares that he knows she did something bad, but if that's all, he can handle it. That's hardly reason enough for being a person who would abandon her like that. Also, she said she didn't want to do it. He knows those are just empty words, yet he wants to ask her about it after they've saved her. Hoshino, despite being on the verge of death, laughs, saying, "Is that a joke? What would someone like you, who doesn't even throw off stress, be able to do?" Given that he's been able to join the game, it means that he probably suffered from it a little bit. It seems that his power lies in punching, and stress caused by physical strain is a relatively common type. He's never punched anything before. Even so, if it's something like getting its attention, he thinks he can do it. In the meantime, Kana takes the opportunity to take his fingers. Once they do something about the finger, maybe Hoshino will be able to use her powers. Suddenly, the monster holds her by her clothes, hovering over his mouth. Large strains switch into demolition mode 60 seconds after catching their prey. It's exactly as the info she got said. She has a lot of firecrackers and begins creating firecrackers that fall into its mouth. A huge explosion is caused as a reaction. However, the creature is barely injured, only losing a piece of its mouth. Her face twists into something, a mixture of anger and fear. The protagonist throws himself toward the monster with all his might, choosing his most powerful punch. That seems to cause a short circuit in the system due to overwhelming stress. With one punch, the creature falls over and Hoshino falls out of its grip. After this devastating punch, the monster is gone, leaving only a small crater in its wake. Hoshino exclaims that this is impossible. It's shocking. He had punched that monster all the way outside the mission area. She questions how he has such harassment. He explains that he doesn't know. He's just a beginner. He extends his arm toward her, and she begins to regain consciousness. Suddenly, Kana hugs him, which takes him by surprise. She declares that he's amazing. He gently pushes her away, looking away, telling her that he needs space. Suddenly, he gets a notification that the mission is finished. She even got the special award, a one-day eraser, a bonus item. When the girls hear this, they are stunned, caring deeply if he's serious. This is an unbelievably rare item. Some people would pay thousands of yen for it.